China is set to open their borders, which I do believe is going to be a real big catalyst for the security markets over there. And so that'll help us with our Alibaba and Tencent investments or other investments that we have in the country of China. However, I don't think all of the news that's been coming out has been good this weekend, as we've seen escalating tensions between the US and China. And so that's what I'm going to cover in this video. So guys, as you smash that like button, let me run that intro. What's up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Let's dive right into this because this is very interesting. It's very positive. It's what we were expecting. A little bit of a hiccup happening in China as they reopen, but I do believe that they are reopening. So you can see here that the Wall Street Journal reported today that China is set to reopen their borders despite the surge in COVID-19 cases. And so, the move comes, and, the Wall Street Journal wrote, the move comes as patients overwhelm Beijing hospitals. And of course, their president Xi Jinping says that these new circumstances reflect a new mission. And so let's dive in a little bit more into what's exactly happening. So notice that fever clinics and hospital emergency rooms in China's capital were overflowing with patients on Monday as Chinese health authorities announced plans to downgrade the treatment of COVID-19. So we did expect the downgrade to happen once doctors aligned on the fact that the newest variants were less dangerous. And so we'll go into that a little bit more in the next slide. But notice that the Wall Street Journal did visit 3 major hospitals in Beijing, and they noticed that the healthcare system is swamped at the moment. And here's why the healthcare system is swamped. Because notice that the downgrade doesn't actually take effect until January 8th, which means that people are still flooding the hospitals as they get a positive COVID test. Now, notice, guys, that despite those struggles, China's National Health Commission issued a plan late on Monday evening to stop treating COVID-19 as a Class A infectious disease, which demands stringent control measures, and downgrade the management of the virus to a Class B. And so, this is not going to go into effect until January 8th. But remember, we did discuss this earlier in the week where we did say that it will be downgraded to a Class B. So that's a good indication that the country will continue to move outside of its zero COVID protocol. So that's really good. And then, of course, notice there's a little bit more information with respect to the downgrades. And so despite the downgrade taking effect on January 8th, it means people traveling to China from abroad will only need to have a negative COVID test within 48 hours to be allowed into the country. And so that pretty much resembles what other countries were doing a couple of years ago, maybe a year ago. And so international arrivals will no longer be required to be tested on arrival or undergo quarantine. And so that's a huge step towards reopening the country. And that's exactly what we've been waiting for. I don't think zero COVID policies will be a major issue in 2023. But I think as we move past this, I think we're going to have other issues in 2023 that could keep the Chinese security markets down. And so just finishing this whole thing off, to essentially what's happening is, as things reopen and as more and more people get sick, one of the ways that they're minimizing the impact of the infection surge on China's already battered economy is by allowing people to return to work even if they have had mild symptoms. And so what this really is a massive shift in the way that they think about the virus. Recall, guys, it was just, 5 or 6 months ago where even if you, not even 5 or 6 months ago, probably like a couple of months ago, where even if you had one COVID infection, a whole building block would get closed down. So now they're saying if you have an infection and it had mild symptoms, you can go back to work. So this is a huge deviation from what the country was doing. And effectively what it does is it says that their zero COVID policy didn't work. They need to move away from it. And so that's what they're doing to sort of avoid further protests and, degradation of their economy. But of course, the other thing that's a bit of an issue here and something that I've sort of been thinking about for a while, and a lot of you guys have been talking about in the comments below, is that, we haven't really heard a lot about how they're allowing more and more sort of vaccinations from the West, the mRNAs, to sort of be used in the country. And so I don't know what the story is behind that, but my perspective has always been that, get people vaccinated first before you reopen. But it looks like they're going backwards. And so we'll see how this plays out. I think you probably could. I mean, these scientists are a lot smarter than I am. You probably could go backwards because it's a lot more mild now, these latest variations of it. But, we'll see how this plays out. But of course, as much as that is good news, we can never have nice things as it relates to news coming out of China because, of course, we now this weekend have seen tensions escalate between China and the US. And if you haven't heard, this is what I'm talking about. So you can see here that China sent warplanes near Taiwan, and these maneuvers came a day after President Biden signed a defense policy authorizing $10 billion in military assistance to Taipei. That's a lot of money. And so, here's me asking the question, why can't we ever just have good news? And so diving into a little bit more, a total of 71 Chinese warplanes were detected flying in the region surrounding Taiwan. And the Taiwan Defense Ministry said that it detected 7 Chinese naval vessels in addition to the 71 planes in the waters near Taiwan on Sunday. And so a Chinese military spokesperson said in an online statement that Sunday's Joint Combat Readiness Protocol and live firing drill was a response to escalating collusion and provocation by the U.S. and Taiwan. And so, of course, the National Security Council, which is a White House body, said that the Chinese action is destabilizing, risks miscalculations, and undermines regional peace and stability. And so, of course, this comes on the heels of President Biden and Xi Jinping agreeing last month at their first in-person meeting to try and stabilize international relations between the two countries, with senior officials set to resume contacts. And, they already have been communicating. And so what it is the exact opposite is happening by both powers at the moment. And so, this always continues to be like 2 steps forward, 2 steps backwards. We're kind of in the same place over and over again. And so I really hope that, more positive movement is made here with the relations between China and the US. I still think we're more positive than when we were a month ago, but this is not helping. But overall, what does this mean for my portfolio as it relates to investing in China? Well, you guys already know that I'm a big Alibaba bull. I have doubled down on Alibaba in 2022. And in 2023, I'm really evaluating my investment in China. I think I might purchase a little bit more Alibaba if the share prices remain low as more cash comes into the portfolio. And I'm really hoping to pick up Tencent as well on the dip. We'll see if it happens, but here's what I mean by it. So you can see this is the tracker that the Patreons get access to. I've blacked out the other securities in the middle here, but you can see that, these models were last updated on December 21 because I don't take any breaks as it relates to investing my portfolio and doing research. But you can see that at $85 per share, Alibaba's trading at roughly 37% or 38% of its intrinsic value, and Tencent, trading at $40 per share, is trading at approximately 70% of its intrinsic value. Now, the question is, I recently released this model for Tencent that the Patreons get access to, and you can get access to that Tencent model, that Alibaba model, and all the other models that the Patreons get access to at that lower tier. And if you really want, you can join us on a monthly call every month where we discuss the stock market and just sort of like how I'm thinking about investing in this environment. Now, the other thing that I do want to point out to you guys is I recently and finally put out a video on Tencent where I completely dissected the whole company, and a lot of you guys have received that very well. And that's just the first video of a few videos that I will be doing on Tencent, breaking down the company in greater and greater detail. But if you missed that first video, don't worry, you can get to it right here.